A prison hitman serving a life sentence earned thousands of pounds by targeting fellow inmates and staging pre-arranged fights behind bars, a court was told. Gary Moody, 37, was paid to attack other prisoners in contract hits and take part in bare-knuckle bouts between convicts, a judge has heard. The convicted robber from Sunderland was arrested in 2020 after slashing the face of a former bouncer, Christopher Zammit, from Salford, in an exercise yard at HMP Manchester, also known as Strangeways. In the days after the attack, Moody rang a relative to ask if a £2,000 bounty he had been promised for the hit had arrived in a bank account. He said, "I have done them proud, I have done it for them." At Manchester Crown Court, Moody was jailed for another 8 years after he was convicted of inflicting grievous bodily harm with intent. Zammit, 39, who was sentenced to 9 years and 4 months in prison in 2014 after he was convicted of running a drugs gang, refused to be treated for his injuries or take any questions over the assault, the court was told. He even instructed police to turn the body-worn cameras off, but was heard to threaten retaliation on Moody and his family. The court heard Moody was originally jailed for an intermediate period for the public protection in 2005 after he robbed 3 university students at knife point in just 7 days. During the attacks, one 19-year-old had a large knife held to his throat and another teenager had the blade held to his chest, while cash, mobile phones and bank cards were taken, used in high street stores. He was accused of throwing boiling water over Al-Qaeda terrorist Darren Barrett at Franklin Maximum Security Jail in Durham, but the charge was dropped after Barrett declined to testify. Barrett is serving 30 years for plotting a bombing campaign in Britain and America. The attack on Zammit occurred on April the 14th, 2020, whilst inmates were taking their daily exercise. Daniel Gilmore, prosecuting, said the defendant had agreed on behalf of others to injure another inmate, Christopher Zammit. Phone conversations recorded prior to the incident show clearly that the defendant was expecting to be paid $2,000 for carrying this out. When it came time for the inmates to return to their cells, the defendant took his chance. The inmates lined up to re-enter the main building, but had been scanned by guards using a one-type device in a central rotunda. The defendant was lined up behind Zammit, but as Zammit stepped forward, the defendant came up behind him and struck the side of his face with his hand. At this point, blood started gushing from his face, and upon realising this, the defendant attempted to flee, with Zammit and the prison officers chasing him around the exercise yard. The prison officers detained him and were able to keep the pair apart. Zammit had a 5-6-inch slash on his face, which had been glued shut. The wound came open and had to be eventually stitched up again. He refused to give a victim statement or assist the prosecution in any way. Prison officer and witness Susan Newton later questioned the defendant, who revealed he was carrying a razor blade. However, they never found the blade as it was buried in the prison yard and hard to find. The defendant pleaded not guilty and was found guilty after a trial, but refuses to acknowledge the decision, holding that another prisoner was responsible for the attack. In Mitigation for Moody, who is currently at Loudham Jail in Nottingham, Defence Counsel Keith Harrison said the defendant had now spent 14 years in custody. This sentence was initially supposed to be a short, but was lengthened for aspects of his behaviour. He behaves for a period of time and then misbehaves in custody. This pattern shows how seemingly never-ending sentences produce a sense of hopelessness in the individual. However, this is not an excuse to explain why he did this. Before this incident, he had moved from one prison to another in Northumbria, and this transfer ended with him clashing with the staff at the new prison. It is not all bad with his character, though, as he continues to have the support of his family. However, that is all I can say, as he continues to deny the offences. There are good sides, but there are sides that are less appealing. Judge John Potter told Moody, "You were in effect as quasi-hitmen, and we're happy to indulge in this within the criminal estate. This was something you were known to be involved in. For example, we heard how you took part in a pre-arranged fight for money in prison. Subsequent telephone calls to others made this clear." Zammit was originally jailed for 5 years for the 2004 manslaughter of a businessman, Frank Buckley, 47, who was kicked and stamped on outside a bar during a family night out. In 2014, he was convicted of being part of the ringleader of a Salford gang that plotted to flood the streets with high-purity cocaine and potent skunk cannabis, after £570,490 worth of the narcotics were seized following a major covert operation. Please like this video, please comment, and I would love it if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.